Well, first tonight, should we be doing more to help unaccompanied child asylum seekers? Community groups here certainly think so. Tonight, they're asking some of our councils to take in more teenagers fleeing some of the world's most dangerous countries.
And while the government appears to be rowing back on a promise to accept more young refugees, we can reveal that the East Midlands could get a new regional team of specialist social workers to support them. Well, our social affairs correspondent Jeremy Ball is at Nottinghamshire University for us this evening. Jeremy.
Yeah, this is where campaigners are about to unveil that detailed report on Nottingham's refugees and asylum system, with recommendations for everyone from councils to churches to community groups. And of course, those unaccompanied children are a real priority. We're talking generally about teenagers who come on their own from countries as far afield as Vietnam and Afghanistan. Scattered across Europe in winter, tens of thousands of unaccompanied children, many fending for themselves. The Archbishop of Canterbury says Britain needs to do more. He's warned that child refugees face being exploited or even killed after the government announced that one relocation programme's being closed. Yamani told me his 16-year-old brother was stranded in the notorious jungle near Calais, but he's been refused permission to bring Solomon to Nottingham under family reunion rights, so now he's offering to take a DNA test.
All his friends have left. He's crying all the time. He's crying and he's stressed. I'm really worried about my brother.
What are your dreams for the future?
This boy came from Eritrea too. Like most unaccompanied children, he doesn't have a family here, so he was age assessed to check he's under 18 and taken into care. And today, this report from the campaign group Nottingham Citizens has urged the city and county councils to take in more teenagers. It wants them to reach the government's maximum limit for unaccompanied children, one for every 1,400 youngsters who live in their area. It also wants those children to get school or college places within a month. But councils say they don't have enough foster carers or government funding to support more unaccompanied children, so now they're considering a regional solution.
We need to increase the number of placements, but we also need to reduce the costs that local authorities are incurring looking after these children. We could actually pool that, and we could have some social workers potentially working across areas, and that enables specialisation, but importantly as well, it enables us to drive down some of the costs.
The Home Office says it brought more than 900 unaccompanied children from the continent last year, but it needs to balance their needs with local councils' capacity to cope. And there'll be more calls for government action in Parliament later this week. Well, let's talk to Helen Murphy from the Trent Vineyard Church, who's one of the authors of today's report. Helen, you're asking for something like a threefold increase in the numbers cared for in Nottinghamshire, but we know councils are struggling to find the money to support children who are born here. So how are they going to pay for it?
Well, in many ways it's a hypothetical question. We really need the government to act again. They promised to bring 3,000 over and have only brought 350 and very much closed the door on that. Saying all of that, I really believe and that the City Council, the county and charities, community organisations, churches like ourselves are really up for working together and being united on making a difference for these young people.
It's going to put huge pressure though, isn't it, on things like foster placements, school placement places?
Yeah, but I think it's our moral obligation to do something. And again, I feel that the city, with all the different community groups, are really up for working together. And I know as a church, Trent Vineyard and the Archers Project have done so much already over the past few years in helping resettle young people in this city and make it their home.
You'll know that the government's warning that encouraging people to come here alone could be incentivising them to make dangerous journeys. That's a good point, isn't it?
We want people to make journeys that are legal and safe, and that's really important. And I would say that, the government have closed those legal and safe routes to make that happen.
Helen Murphy, thanks very much for joining us, and there'll be more on this story on our late news tonight at 10:30.